it's a little after 3:15. I think we'll return to the program for the day, and that's going to be our keynote address from Derek Newton, who's Senior Vice President of Business Development and Strategic Partnership at Mitacs. And I'll leave it to him to explain a little bit more of what Mitacs does and the value that it brings. But just speaking personally, I think it adds a lot of value because in my graduate school days, I benefited from a Mitacs fellowship twice with the University of Toronto and the Institute of Competitiveness and Prosperity, if I can get this, if that rings any bells. Yeah. And that also led to my very first or second paper on how management techniques affects productivity. So it was very good, helped me learn a lot at the time, but enough from me. I think please join me in welcoming Derek, who will talk to us about driving innovation and productivity through research and talent.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here and talk a little about this. Before we get going, just to give you a little hint about what I'm going to talk about and Mitacs and what we do, I think I have a short video. So if I go to my first slide, we're going to talk about innovation and productivity. And actually, I want to thank the first panel that was up here for really setting up some key topics. One is, how do we think about and we need more companies that are hungry? We need companies that invest. We need companies that aren't shy about making money. And I think a little bit about that also through the research lens and the research and innovation lens, which of course involves people. So I think I have a video which we're going to cue. Well, yeah.
At Mitacs, we know that Canada's future prosperity depends on innovation. That's why, for over 25 years, governments across Canada have invested in Mitacs' unique formula: strategic partnerships between enterprise and research, talent, and financial support to drive innovation. It's a winning combination, and it's Mitacs.
Thank you. So first of all, we have to, one will be here at McGill, a fitting place to explore how knowledge, skills, and innovation intersect and help shape Canada's future. And I also want to thank the University of Calgary School of Public Policy and the Institute for Research on Public Policy for this great conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Now, as we jump in, there we go. We did that. I'm just going to make a couple reflections from myself here. First of all, what I'm not a policy expert. I'm not an economist. Matter of fact, probably I would best describe myself as a practitioner. I've worked at universities, 2 universities, for over 20 years, and I've really been at the face of working with industry, getting Canadian and international industries working with Canadian institutions, getting them investing in talent, innovation. When I was at the University of Toronto, we ran an industry engagement office, so you're always trying to get companies to invest and join us at the University of Toronto. We also manage their IP portfolio, and we were always marketing made in Canada innovation solutions to companies. And then in addition to that, we saw an enormous amount of rise and interest in entrepreneurship and how we equip Canadian talent and students with the skills they need to start and launch a new small business. Over my time, a couple reflections, a couple crises has really shaped some of what was happening within our sector. The first one is there's 2008, the financial crisis. Canada was largely spared from that with our conservative and responsible financial sector and players here. But coming out of that, a number of programs and expectations changed at the university level. Often economic benefits, companies, these types of economic drivers were more of a still-off benefit, I think, when it came to universities. And really coming out of 2008, certainly at various levels of government and possibly even the public, there was a lot more intention where post-secondary institutions should play a much more direct role in economic recovery, in jobs, in economic growth. And so a number of different types of programs, I think, were sparked across the country, and many universities responded to that. I'll give you an example just from the university I happened to work at, and I've moved on from there. We doubled down and we quadrupled the amount of industry engagement that we were securing. We moved into a tempo where we were filing 2 U.S. patent applications a week, and we were also creating 2 research-based companies a month. And that really became part of the mission of the university rather than a bit of a side part. And then that was something that some institutions have leaned in on. And I think that some of that is reflected there. The COVID crisis was another transformative moment, I think, for the post-secondary institutions and coming out of that. During that time, most of our company partners and innovators continue to work with the university. But since that time, there's been a real shift at what I observed, which is larger companies around the world are now consolidating some of their innovation, consolidating their research, and picking favorites, quite frankly. And so what we found was larger companies are going to continue to invest, and smaller companies are having a more difficult time. And today, we're in a very challenging environment with tariffs, with global uncertainty, a budget that's going to come out in about 2 weeks. And so this is another challenging moment. So I was thinking about my comments today. Really at the heart of each of these responses has been talent and how post-secondary institutions have addressed some of that. One of the things that we do see, I would argue at the university level, is when I think of the data and who's working with the university, there seems to be very, very large players, and there seems to be SMEs, and there really is not a lot in between this. And so I think across the country, you've seen amazing universities like Calgary, which have launched into entrepreneurship and launching companies. You've seen many of our companies really fail to scale. And so that's another place where I think investing in talent and productivity is going to come from. So this, as a non-economist, why do I think a lot about this? So folks in my type of role across the post-secondary sector know this very well. And they know it, we know it, because they live it. They know that getting Canadian companies to invest in a university, co-create IP, working with the institution is pretty hard compared to many other jurisdictions around the world. And so we know that we face slowing productivity growth, global competitors moving faster. But we do have world-class researchers, bold innovators, and a diverse, talented society, and think about how we can leverage that. Now, certainly a term that has been out is economists call it creative destruction, where innovation is constantly reshaping economies, sweeping away old models and creating new opportunities for new ones. Around us, this is happening faster than ever in every sector, in every region. Our task is urgent but clear. We need to build the skills that tomorrow's economy will demand, leverage immigration as a competitive advantage, and ensure that our talent system truly drives productivity. But the question isn't whether Canada can innovate. We already do. The question is, can we turn disruption into renewal, and can we do it at scale? So I want to start with a couple of examples of how we connect talent and innovation. And this is really the Mitacs advantage, and this is one of the programs and why I joined the organization. It's talent first. So we really focus on providing undergraduates, graduates, postdocs, the opportunity for work-integrated learning, the opportunity for enriched programs at their university, and it's people that drive innovation and drive commercialization. We act as a bridge to market. I told you earlier that getting companies and universities working together, there's a bit of matchmaking that needs to go into that. There's some convening that needs to go into that. In my role, people would think that you spend a lot of time negotiating with companies and getting them to work with universities. 80, 90, almost 95% education. How to get a company to imagine how to work with a great institution that's probably right in their own city, and how they can get the most out of that. So we spent a lot of time educating companies about the amazing institutions that they should be with. Supporting business research. All of our programs have been led by companies. We heard in the first panel that we need to be responsive to company needs. Absolutely. We're asking the companies to help co-fund and pay for the program. So it's very responsive to what the market wants. And I think when I think about the bird number that I showed earlier, one of the biggest challenges we're having is there's not enough market pull when it comes to the talent in the program. To your point earlier, it's a lot of PSI push, and maybe that push is grounded in market factors, and sometimes it's not. So Mitacs, our mission is to drive industry academic collaboration, deploy skilled talent, build innovation capacity, and strengthen Canada's productivity and competitiveness. So one of the things that I would chat a little bit about is just some of the stats that are on this. What I'm going to do in this talk is pepper in some stats of the data that we have and some reflections on what we see is working. But 35, once we get them together, once we get companies and talent working together, 35% of a partner organizations report that their innovation project would not have taken place without Mitacs funding. So we do help support companies, defray those costs, get them working with them. 82% of partners would like to collaborate with that professor again, and almost 75% of them maintain the collaboration fit. So what we have found is if we can convene and start a project, we can continue on that trajectory. And we have a number of projects for our research, number of projects across different types of areas here. One is for applied research, that's our Accelerate program, to innovation-driven internships. These are students who come from a business school, from the company needs marketing, and website development. We help with that. We have a globally program that helps both outgoing students leave and come back, but also a key attracting to bringing in world-class talent. We are aligned with specialized programs and strategies. In quantum, we're investing in hardware and software through special programs across the country. And we're equally committed to Indigenous innovation and making sure linking Indigenous businesses and organizations get interns and the funding and the partnerships that can help turn their ideas into impact. Give you a little bit of a sense of scale of the programs that we work with almost 200 universities, colleges, and with over 13,000 researchers that participated. We've heard one today from Trevor already. Over 99,000 interns have been facilitated, and we've invested over $1.4 billion in research development. We have active partnerships with more than 20 countries, and we connect Canadian innovators to global research networks. Over 12,000 international students have participated, and 84% of them stay here in Canada. So with that, I want to give you just a couple of examples to get you thinking about kind of some of the ways in which we make real-world impact. This is a great case of study. Avastec Technology is a Canadian robotics company out of Burnaby, BC, created in 2017 to meet regulatory requirements. So larger buildings, if you need solar panels on the roof, and you need to do your annual inspection. This company has drones technologies that help you meet those regulatory areas. They hosted 3 Mitacs interns from UBC, and they quickly became full-time employees and a significant portion of this 25-person company. So this is one example. Another great example is Banyan Gold, partnered with Mitacs to do geological surveys and advanced exploration in the Yukon. They supported a number of students from the University of Florida, Simon Fraser. They got hands-on field experience while contributing valuable data, a win for the firm, and I think many of those students are also working in the industry. And just one last example of work integrated learning is Isan Abassi, a former student in Newcombe, Colorado, who with Mitacs retired as an Innova team rep. He was eventually promoted to the CTO, and he understands firsthand how work integrated learning cultivates talent and groundbreaking ideas. And it's proof that just investing in talent isn't just academic, it really drives real-world outcomes. And this is just one great example of how Mitacs has helped bring talent from around the world. But now, those are just 3 examples. What I want to talk a little bit here is what are we seeing in our data? So through these massive number of programs that we've done over the years, you can get a sense here of what companies are investing, what projects, what sectors are moving. Perhaps the surprise for me when I saw this was that advanced manufacturing is quite low on the list. Health-related scientists is quite high on that list. And artificial intelligence is somewhere in the middle. And I do think that if I come back in a couple of years, it'll be interesting to see how this changes. But this really grounds, I think, some of us thinking around what are companies investing in, what do they want to spend their money in, and where are they looking to the post-secondary institutions for talent. So let's talk a little bit about technology adoption and AI. We know that in Canada, we're a laggard when it comes to adopting AI. It's a little disappointing when Nobel Prize last year for deep learning with Jeffrey Hinton, we've seen a lot of creation when it comes to AI technologies, tools, and platforms coming from Canada. But what we've not seen is Canadian companies, large and small, widely adopting it at a rate quickly compared to a year's startup. And this really kind of is a little bit of a paradox that we're talking about today, which is students are graduating and they're having difficulty finding jobs in their career, in their chosen field. And we have companies who are looking for talent and are unable to find that. So how do we square that? I think AI adoption is going to be on the leading edge when it comes to investments when we look to the future, when it comes to what companies are investing in and youth and talent and technology-enabled skills that they're going to need. And you can see on this chart here, this line going up. This is the number of projects, the number of interns that are now focusing on AI adoption. So when you think of that list that I showed you, the proportion of them that are now in AI adoption, 23% of our projects now have some focus of AI adoption compared to 8% just a few years ago. And we know this is critically important for small enterprises, for them to afford the type of talent to compete with larger companies. We've seen a lot of smaller companies use Mitacs as a way to connect PSIs and colleges and really to have the opportunity to hire talent right out of that organization at a chance when it's perhaps at a lower salary point than trying to dislodge or get some of that. We also do a lot of exit surveys. So we get data on individuals who have used the program and see what they say about it. And we find that 94% of interns have felt that they made a meaningful contribution to the organization. 65% of them thought that it was a great way for them to participate in solving real-world problems. And 64% were for the more positive view of pursuing R&D as their career afterwards. So we're seeing that students who are engaged in these programs coming out with very positive outcome. And if I go to the other side of this slide, really what it starts with is industry-driven demand. We work with the companies, we get them to tell us their problems. We can advertise that across institutions across the country. The students, of course, love it. Some of the professors love it. They get embedded in real-world experience. So there is a program. Now, thinking a little bit about how we support immigration and bringing newcomers to this country. 55% of the folks who use our programs are newcomers to the country. And I think this is important because as you think about industry needs, you need to think globally about bringing fresh talent from around the world. And this all-in approach boosts productivity and strengthens Canada's innovation capacity. And amid global uncertainty right now, you need to have Canada standing out as a safe, stable, and diverse destination for some of the top innovators and researchers around the world. Now, attracting talent is only part of the solution. Retention and integration matters just as much. Too many of our skilled newcomers, we've talked about this already, are underemployed or leave Canada. Now, programs like Mitacs, you see that that's actually not been the case. 84% of them who come here, they remain in the Canadian workforce. You've seen over 12,000 join us since 2018, and 42% of them. So what else do we see in the data that we have when we talk to companies? Well, we can see, and this goes back to some of the earlier comments of companies not investing enough in talent. We need Canadian companies to invest more in innovation and R&D, and of course that includes talent. But when it comes to impact on research spending, we find that companies that have used Mitacs program, they generally went on to spend over 37% more on research than those that didn't. You see that when it comes to sales and their impact on their enterprise, you see gains across productivity, revenue, and sales. And we see an impact on employment growth. Not to say that there's an attribution challenge, I think, in here, but I think it's fair to say that when we can get companies to imagine how to spend a little bit more on research, we connect them to a company that can help defray some of those costs, and we can connect them to the institutions that are across this country, we can begin to see them taking a little different trajectory when it comes to innovation and talent. Now, we talked a little bit about BIRD and the shared GDP, and you can see where Canada is right now. We lag in business and technology adoption, and skills and immigration alone are not going to be enough when it comes to this. And so we need an ecosystem that works. We talked a little bit about fragmentation that we've already seen. You've seen, we talked a little bit about how we bring together academia, industry, and government, getting them to work together. We talked a little bit about how our small companies struggle to scale without robust network. And I think really what we've gotten companies to imagine is how they can use the post-secondary system and programs like Mitacs to bring in new talent, engage in innovation, start new companies, and we've had amazing support from governments where we're funded across Canada and with every single province. This is a study that I was able to take part in. It's led by the Conference Board of Canada. It looks at patenting. I don't think we can talk about innovation, productivity in the knowledge economy with a patent and some patent data. This was a novel analysis that was done, and I won't spend too much time on it. But what's interesting here is they're looking at in this one is where does Canada have relative patenting concentration or strength? So at the top of that list is areas where Canada is perhaps stronger than some of our OECD peers. So civil engineering pops right out, whereas on the opposite end of that spectrum is semiconductors. So when you look at across our spectrum, we look at our patenting rate, what's higher and what's lower than what you might expect. On the horizontal axis is what is the rate of movement over time. So you can see on the your right-hand side, engines, machinery, pumps. These are areas where there's been an acceleration in our patenting when it comes to other peers. And then you can see, perhaps troublingly, in digital communications, computer technology, these are areas where we seem to be lagging or slowing compared to the peers. So this is certainly one piece of data. Certainly universities and colleges are a big part of this. But this can, in addition to seeing what we are seeing in trends in our own programs, you can see where is industry going? What is industry spending money? Where are they patenting? Where are they patenting in Canada? This is Canadian data. And it's interesting to see that pharmaceuticals are high on that list, engineering, machinery, and this might be related to the natural resources sector, but interesting to see these types of areas. So getting back to startups, when we talk about technologies ready to commercialize, we have launched in Ontario and other places, IT literacy. This is another skill that we think our students need to have, and launching startups and SMEs. And this is something that really changed, certainly is changing across universities, where entrepreneurship is viewed not simply in the lens of creating a successful financially viable company, but many universities are looking at entrepreneurship as a way of thinking. How do we teach students to pitch their ideas? How do we teach students from a business school to meet someone from the engineering faculty to meet someone from the education faculty? And so we've seen universities across the country become really startup focused. Students who come here from around the world want to go to an institution that has a lot of entrepreneurship experience and opportunities to try that, and investor networks. And we've got specific programs to help with entrepreneurs, and you can see this striking data there when it comes to the number of Mitacs who are trying their hand at the other company. So what are some of the things that we think about that can really help tackle this problem? Aligning federal, provincial, and industry efforts. I think this is key, keeping that grounded in market demand. Convening key academic and industry players. I think this is absolutely going to be important for the country. Linking skills, immigration, innovation, and IT literacy under a single productivity agenda. We've talked too much about fragmentation and too many programs. And embedding lifelong learning and reskilling across the workforce. And I think we're going to see, perhaps in the budget moving forward, Canadian procurement and public sector leadership is going to need to guide some of this, certainly when it comes to defense and dual use, certainly when it comes to tariffs and our response to tariffs, in areas like defense, AI, and beyond. I think we're going to see some significant shifts when it comes to procurement and public sector leadership. With that, I'm going to give you another example. This is a much bigger example. I've searched some of the small ones, but one of the things we like to do at Mitacs is to be national programs. And so this is a great study supported by the development of Interdisciplinary Institute for Cybersecurity, 35 industry players, 40 professors and research teams tackling cybersecurity challenges in Montreal, Quebec. You can see we partnered with some of the financial institutions here. And so this is really an amazing program across 2 provinces, linking large industry needs in high technology areas with support from a number of universities. I think we need more of this. So, as a call to action, what do we think, what are we seeing? Building skills for tomorrow's economy, leveraging immigration, and ensure that our talent systems can drive productivity. And of course, the new ideas and growth that I think so often come from talents and students from university colleges across the country that are going to help lead to new gains in productivity. And with that, I want to thank all of our funders. It really is a pan-Canadian effort when it comes to the impacts that we've had from Canada to coast to coast. And with that, thank you very much for this amazing conversation. Couple questions, or I have time for. I have 3 minutes apparently on the board.
Thank you very much, Daniel Bélan, from the McGill Institute for the Study of Canada. What's the role of municipalities here at the local level? You mentioned provinces, you mentioned the federal government. How should we think about the role of the really local governments in that effort to increase innovation?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, in our mix of eligible organizations that can access Mitacs programming, municipalities are one of them. So we're seeing more municipalities taking advantage of Mitacs programs. And if that helps that municipality connect to the college or university, we think that's a good thing. We've also been connecting into some of the more regional boards of trade, working with them, their industry networks. Again, it's amazing how much work we need to do to get Canadian companies to tap into the world-class institutions that are often right in their backyard. So I think there's 2 ways. One, they can use our programs, and 2, we're looking to them to help us make connections and get the good word out. Great. Thank you so much.